What the black man and woman needs to know about the nation, about the world, about themselves. Muhammad Speaks It. To order your 12-issue subscription to Muhammad Speaks newspaper, 313-371-7033. 313-371-7033. Kareem Bean Pie is the grand champion of all bean pies. The rich flavor and smooth texture takes this pie to a whole new level of delicious. One bite and you'll understand why people all over the country call daily to order Kareem Bean Pie. 313-371-7033. That's 313-371-7033. Kareem Bean Pie.
This bean pie is delicious.
Muhammad Speaks presents Messenger Elijah Muhammad's Teachings by Minister Khalil Shabazz every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. at Muhammad's Temple of Islam, 12609 East McNichols Road in Detroit.
Brothers and sisters, rise for prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful. So, Master's Day of Judgment in which we now live, Thee alone do we serve, and Thee alone seek for Thine help and aid. O Allah, please guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom Thou hast bestowed Thy favors, not on the path of those upon whom Thy wrath is brought down, nor are those who go astray have they heard Thy teachings. Say He, Allah is one God. Allah is He of whom nothing is independent, but upon whom we all depend. He begetteth not, nor is He begotten, there is none like Him. And I bear witness that none deserve to be served worth of praise besides Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. And I bear witness that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is our true servant and last apostle. Ameen. We'd like to acknowledge the brothers and sisters that extended us the greetings of Assalamu Alaikum. We have Sister Fatima Ali from Philly. We have Sister Miriam from Oklahoma. We have Brother Muta Kabir Ali from New Jersey. We have Brother Mustafa and Sister Sharice Ali from Ohio. And we have the Rafiq family. And I'd like to say in the name of Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, and in the name of His last and greatest messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, I'd like to greet the brothers and sisters with the Nation of Islam's greeting words of peace of Assalamu Alaikum. Today, we'd like to talk about the August 18, 1956 Pittsburgh Carrier, and the title is There a Mystery God? And these articles of Is There a Mystery God is also in the Message to the Black Man, Is There a Mystery God? But first, we want to start with the Muhammad Speaks. And this comes from the August 19, 1966 Muhammad Speaks, and it's called Divide the Spoil. It has the top, it says, at FOI ceremonies, top promoters of Muhammad's program honored. Because in the Muhammad Speaks, they always had in there the brothers who were selling the papers.
That's right.
It was always something in there about some paper selling. So this is in the August 19th, 1966. And we starting in the middle of the article. It says, Supreme Captain of the Fruit of Islam, Raymond Sharif, who presented the award, said that no earthly reward could do these dedicated men the honor they deserve. Their greatest reward will come from their God Allah, he said. Captain Sharif added that special praise was due because those cited not only worked every day on jobs, but after work hours, they go to work again, helping the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and thereby helping themselves.
That's right.
All praise to Allah. Because that's a good excuse. I ain't gonna lie. Hey, I gotta work.
Right.
But when you look and read in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, and it's talk about the brothers' sacrifice, a lot of brothers had jobs. They had these one brothers. He worked as a cab driver. So he worked all week. So it said on Saturdays and Sundays, he'd stay out for 8 hours. 8 hours a day, just selling papers. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So when you look at the sacrifices brother was making for the paper, it's like it wasn't no excuse. Yes. Like every excuse that we use today, When you read in the Muhammad Speaks, brothers was doing it.
That's right.
They was doing it because they'll tell you what this brother's owning business is. Still selling 300 papers a week. Owning business. Married brothers. Wife ain't working and she pregnant with kids. You still selling papers. So this Muhammad Speaks newspaper was showing the brothers who was out selling the papers. And we also have, because the one thing we like to do in our generation is like give credit to brothers, like this brother was better than that brother. But when you look at the Muhammad Speaks newspaper program, the brothers were sacrificing for the paper.
Yes, sir.
Every brother in the Nation of Islam did his part
Yes,
for whatever he was. Whether he was a lieutenant, a captain, it was no number one brother better than another brother. Because we have, this is a Muhammad Speaks, and this says a pair of top flight salesmen of Muhammad Speaks newspaper step off on their weekly rounds of Washington, D.C. with an eye towards eclipsing their previous weekly record sales. Leading fellow salesman, Brother Orson X, recently out of orientation class and selling 275 copies weekly, is who is striving to top his 300 copy a week mark. Both are with Mosque number 4. So this brother just got out of orientation class, and he's selling 275 copies. And it says, Brother OCX, owner and operator of OC Shoe Spot, selling 300 copies a week. All praises due to Allah. So this brother sacrificed. He ain't getting no spotlight like on the news every week or on TV. But this brother sacrifices for what he do. He own his business and selling 275 copies a week. Plus he a business owner. Then you got another one. This brother, this says, student minister D. Titanus X of Muhammad's Washington, D.C. Mosque number 4 stands at the doorstep of a capital city black family awaiting his opportunity to speak about the wonders of Islam and the peace he has found since becoming a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So this brother was a student minister. Still selling the paper, going door to door. Student minister, you see everybody participating in the Muhammad Speaks. Then you got another one. This one says, setting standard of achievement in Philadelphia, PA, is Brother Albert 7X Jones of Muhammad's Mosque of Islam number 12, who is top newspaper salesman in the area. Brother Albert regularly sells more than 1,500 copies of the paper a week, but is now being rivaled by 2 other FOI members in the area who have neared the 1,600 mark during the past 2 weeks. All praise due to Allah. These brothers, now you think I'm selling 1,500. Then there's some more brothers who coming close to you. Work is brothers still working. Still got to provide for your family. Still got to come to the temple, and you selling papers. So it ain't no excuse. And another thing that I like about these brothers is that these brothers still had their ex. Because in this new school stuff, we like all this Allah and God stuff. You know, we got to have a 7-page long name. You know what I'm saying? You got to say Assalamu alaikum God to me. These brothers still, even the student minister, still got his ex. Selling all these papers. Doing all this work. It wasn't all the science. It wasn't all the wise guy stuff. It wasn't all the 7-page long name. Just give me my ex. I'm a Muslim. All praise due to Allah. What it is. I'm selling 1,500 Muhammad Speaks newspapers. All I got is an ex. We have brothers who got 7-page long names, and you say, how many papers you sold this month? Nothing. And you got a name 2 pages long. That's the facts when you look at the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. And the one thing that we'll notice about the papers, whenever you look at the title of the papers and look at how the messenger depicted the devil, he always made the devil look like he was an enemy to the black man. He never made these beautiful pictures of the devil. They always looked like they were savage. Every picture, every cartoon, he always made them hairy. He always made them look old and decrepit. They never looked like good, pretty pictures of white people. So when you had these brothers selling 1,500 Muhammad Speaks a week, 300 Muhammad Speaks a week, or however many they selling, everybody getting the same message.
Yes, sir.
That's the beautiful thing about how the Messenger had the Muhammad Speaks newspaper.
Yes, sir.
Everybody getting the same message. So when the Messenger got in the middle of this article, he got the serpent who deceived the whole world.
Yes, sir.
Everybody get to understand it from the Messenger that the white man's deaf.
That's right. Right.
Don't nobody get nothing different from nobody else.
Right.
Because all brothers is doing, from the minister on down to the regular soldier, is giving people the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. The student minister door-to-door with the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. So when the Messenger said the white man's the devil, wasn't no misunderstanding about that.
That's right.
And that's the one thing that kept the nation tight. It's because everybody on the same page.
That's right.
The white man is the devil.
That's right.
But today, we like to mix up the teachings on the white man's the devil. But if you only just look at the cover page without even looking at the article, the Messenger got this, the April 5th, 1968, and it says, unalike attracts, alike repels. And this is that Muhammad Speaks newspaper, where when you read it, the Messenger tells us to keep this on our wall. This is that Muhammad Speaks newspaper that the Messenger said that we should cut out and keep as a memorial. This said, this will continue throughout the issues of this paper. Cut out this article and keep it as a memorial in your homes. And it says in the box, it says, let us repel unalike and hold to alike. Love your black self, brothers and sisters.
Yes, sir.
Always telling us that the white man's the devil.
That's right.
Telling us, let us repel unalike. The white man is the unalike.
Right.
So every black person who got these papers understood that the Messenger believed that the white man's the devil.
That's right.
Another paper. It says, stand together for self or suffer the consequences. The Messenger got a unity of black men standing there with united black front. Then you got one black man who run from them to run to the devil.
Right.
So what are he trying to say?
Yeah.
He says on him, Uncle Tom leadership.
Right. Right.
All praise to Allah. So if I'm not telling no brother how I feel about that, because maybe I might not really agree with this. But if I'm selling it to him like Muhammad Speaks, he gonna hear what the Messenger say.
That's right. That's right.
Because every brother might not agree. You might think it's some good white people. But if your job is just to sell the Muhammad Speaks newspaper and tell people what the Messenger say, everybody gonna know the same thing.
Right.
And we all gonna be united on the same thing, because it ain't about what I think, what I heard, how I feel. It's just like, hey, Muhammad Speaks.
Right.
So that was the idea of the Messenger with the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. So we can go on to who is that mystery God. And this is the Messenger. And this comes from the Message to the Black Man. And this is called Who is That Mystery God Part 1. The Messenger says, can God be a mystery God and yet send prophets to represent himself? Have the prophets been representing a God that is not known, a mystery? They tell us that they heard God's voice speaking to them in their own language. Can a spirit speak a language while being an immaterial something? If God is not material, what pleasure would he get out of material beings and the material universe? What is the basis of spirit? Is the spirit independent of material? Now the Messenger asks us a lot of good questions in this article. Now we all know that this picture right here is that Ten Commandments movie, because the white man teaches us to believe in a spook.
That's right.
Because they don't ask us questions when they teach us about God. They just say, God spoke through the burning bush. And for years, I think this movie came on during Easter, because the greatest story that ever was told used to come on Christmas. Every Christmas and Easter, we was watching these when I grew up.
Yes,
We used to say the lines. We knew what was coming up next. We was thoroughly indoctrinated with the spook belief because we was watching this, the Ten Commandments. And in this movie, we see that this right here is supposed to be Moses. Now this right here is supposed to be God. And we hear God speaking through the burning bush. Now the messenger says, he says, can God be a mystery God and yet send prophets to represent himself? Have prophets been representing a God who is not known? He says they tell us that they heard God's voice speaking to them in their own language. Can a spirit speak a language while being an immaterial something? Simple question. Can a spirit speak a language while being immaterial? Now first we got to look up, what does voice mean? So we just got to be simple. No high science. Just simple and plain. It says, voice is the sound produced in a person's larynx and uttered through the mouth as speech or song. So the first thing you gotta have a voice, is a larynx. Now, if you immaterial, you ain't got no larynx. That's just simple and plain. That's simple, basic when you look up what voice means. The first thing you gotta be, number one, is a person. Then you gotta have a larynx. Now let's look up what is a larynx. It says a hollow muscular organ forming an air passage to the lungs and holding the vocal cords in the humans and other mammals, the voice box. So now we see that a larynx is a muscular organ. Messenger said, can a spirit speak a language while being an immaterial something? Just something simple and plain. Well, they ain't never tell us that, because when we looking at this movie, listening to this voice, we ain't thinking nothing about that.
Right.
We believe that this voice can speak through this burning bush.
Right. Yeah.
Then, to make it even more spooky, the way the white man talk about it and write it in the Bible. Because we was learned in the church, never question this. Right. So the way the white man wrote it was spooky. It says, and the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with the fire, and the bush was not consumed. It says, and Moses saw, I will not turn aside and see this great sight, while the bush is not burnt. So Moses saw the bush burning, but it wasn't burning. It was on fire, but it wasn't burning. So he looked at the bush and said, hey, I wonder why the bush is on fire, but it's not burning. So we go to the bush and look. So then it says, and when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses, and he said, here I am. Now the midst mean in the middle. Now, if we thinking logically, the only way this can work is if the bush was burning and then God was standing behind it somewhere talking to Moses. Ain't no way that God could be talking out of the bush. No way. Because if he talking out of the bush burning him. Ain't no way. But the white man he was speaking out of the midst of the bush. But the messenger, that's just a simple, and this just one little sentence out of this whole chapter to kill the spook.
Right.
He just say, hey, can a spirit speak a language while being an immaterial something? So then we can go on with this voice thing. Because they even got diagrams of the voice box, and they explain to you what happens when you talk. This is the diagram right here of a larynx. And then you need lungs. You got to have a larynx, trachea, tongue, and soft palate, whatever that is. But you need all that to be able to talk. They even show you a diagram of open vocal cords and closed vocal cords. Man say, can immaterial something speak a language? Simple as that. And it says, in general, the voice of any animal, including humans, is produced by air from the lungs, flowing past the vocal folds. This causes the vocal folds to vibrate, thereby chopping up the airflow. Due to this staggered output of air, audible pulses of sound are produced. The exact nature and volume of the sound depend on the air pressure from the lungs, which means that the air pressure is the fuel of our voice. And on the muscles of the larynx, they adjust the exact length and extent of the vocal folds. So this is telling you that the exact nature and volume of the sound depend on the air pressure from the lungs, which means that air pressure is the fluid of, or the fuel of our voice. So you got to have lungs, because the air pressure is the fuel of our voice. So, an immaterial something. How can an immaterial something speak a language? How can an immaterial something speak the language of a person? It's not possible. So the messenger, just simple and plain, who is that mystery God? Can God be a mystery God and yet send prophets to represent himself? Have the prophets been representing a God that is not known? Because he also asked the question, he says, is the spirit independent of material? And the answer is no. The spirit is dependent on the material if they want to communicate with us.
Right.
Because to have a voice, we already talked about what you have to have physically to be able to produce a voice.
Yes,
So all praise due to Allah. So when the messenger says, is the spirit independent of material? No, it's not independent of material. Because the messenger is teaching us there is no mystery God.
That's right.
There is no spook.
Right.
But just like how you have with the message to the black man, when it was the Muslims' job to just give the black man that Muhammad speaks, everybody could get that understanding. But since now, some of us want to be praying with these Orthodox Muslims. So we get back spooky. We say God came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, re-spooking it in the person. So it was some spook in the person of Master Farad Muhammad so that we can be with the Orthodox Muslims. We believe in God like you do. We just believe God came in the person. That's spook. So when they on their knees with them Orthodox Muslims, we all believe in the same God, the originator. Because God came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. But the messenger, what spirit? Is the spirit independent of material? What came in? What came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad? When you say in the person, if you want to go to the Secretary of State to fill out paperwork, they could say you could do that online, but for this you got to come in person. Right. Simple and plain. They ain't talking about no spook. They just saying you got to come and fill out this paperwork. Come in person. Right. So when we say that God came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, we just tell him. He didn't come in a vision. He didn't come in a dream. He didn't come in no burning bush.
Right.
He came in a person.
Right.
All praise to Allah. Right. Simple and plain.
Right.
It ain't nothing spooky to it. Because it ain't no spook.
That's right.
The message said, can God be a mystery God and yet send prophets to represent himself? Have the prophets been representing a God that is not known? If Master Farad Muhammad had something in him that was God, that's not known. Well, he didn't tell us nothing about what was in him. He said, I'm the Mahdi. When the messenger said, who are you? He didn't say, well, the Mahdi in me, and I came to give the Mahdi to you. He said, I am the Mahdi. All praise to Allah. Simple and plain. Ain't no spook.
That's right.
Ain't no spook.
Yes, sir.
And this is the whole purpose of the messenger writing to us about who is that mystery God, asking us the question. Who is it? Can a spirit speak a language while being immaterial? That's a spooky belief. Ain't nothing immaterial doing nothing for me and you. We ain't praying to nothing immaterial. We praying to a real human being.
Yes,
That's the whole purpose of asking you, who is that mystery God, so you can think about it. Who is the mystery God you talking about?
Right.
If we showing you that an immaterial nothing can't speak. The prophets ain't representing no immaterial nothing. They knew the God. In order for them to be able to talk to him, even if they ain't seen him, they knew he was human. Because to be a human and talk, you got to produce a voice. And to produce a voice, you got to have a lung. You got to have a larynx. You got to have some air coming through there. Just like if you didn't see a lion. We hear a roar outside. We don't see it, but we hear it. So we know that's a lion. All praise due to Allah. You ain't got to see him. You can hear a bark. That must be a dog. You can hear a meow from a cat. That must be a cat. Even if a person recorded it and produced it on a recording, it's still a cat. But it's a cat on that recording. It ain't no spook. No matter how it's produced, you know from hearing it, even if you don't see it. So the prophets was not representing a spook, even though they never saw God. They heard his voice. That's enough to know he a human. It's enough to know. All praise due to Allah. So you don't have to, even with Master Farad Muhammad, we don't have to see him. We could be acquainted with these teachings. You can be able to see through the how to eat to live that Master Farad Muhammad is God.
That's right.
You see your brothers and sisters, intelligent brothers and sisters, still eat hog, still eat peanuts, don't fast, still eat fried chicken every day and say, I'm gaining weight, I'm doing this. How to eat to live.
Right.
Something simple as that. Right. All of these wise people didn't know. Even with this, can a spirit speak a language while being an immaterial something? Simple and plain. Right. Preachers don't know that.
That's right.
These professors don't know that. It was God who came.
Yes, sir.
Because that's the one thing that we hate to talk about in this new school stuff. Because the messenger said God had to come to teach us the knowledge of himself. That's how we know how God is. It ain't because of these teachings. God had to come and teach us him of himself, make himself known.
Right.
That's how we know who God is. It ain't because of these teachings alone. Because God had to come to make himself known. That's how we know that God is a man. It ain't just because of the teachings alone. Because the messenger said that the white man had made it so spooky. That's why God had to come. He couldn't come in a vision. He couldn't come in a dream. He had to come himself, find a message, teach him face to face. The messenger had to see him. The messenger had to be taught by him face to face. It wasn't all of this dream stuff. The messenger wouldn't have been able to teach us this if he just had it in no dream. All praise due to Allah. God had to come. He had to see God. He had to see God in action. He wasn't no dream. What you did, white man in the 30s? You got a dream talking about the white man's the devil. No, you got to see God. You got to see him teach that the white man's the devil. You got to see him fearless. You got to see him till I got authority. I ain't scared of these devils. I'm going to kill them. Kill them all. That man must be God. Talking like that in the 30s. He ain't coming no dream. He came in person. So the messenger goes on to say, he says, actually, who is that mystery God? We should take time and study what has and is being taught to us. Study the word and examine it. And if it be the truth, lay hold to it. To teach people that God is a mystery God is to teach them that God is unknown. There is no truth in such teaching. Can one teach that which he himself does not know? Once again, if I had a dream, I don't know nothing about that. We got dreams every day that ain't got nothing to do with reality. You got visions, and a vision don't have nothing to do with no reality. So can a person teach if they never met God? How you gonna teach me about God if you ain't never met him?
That's right.
You reading the same Bible I'm reading, but you ain't never saw God. Face to face, not know in the vision. Face to face, you don't know what you're talking about. Because everybody have visions. Everybody have dreams. Everybody have thoughts and opinions about what they think God is. But the only one who know is the one who could say, I met him.
That's right.
Face to face.
Yes, sir.
I talked to him. He taught me. Not only that, but you can see God's work changing you. Right. His words, his teachings. You can see not only changing you, but changing your black brother. That's right. Because the messenger said that God chose us. We are the example to the world that God came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
Just for the fact that we don't eat hog. That's the fact, because the white man used to throw away chitlins.
That's right.
He didn't used to keep chitlins. Nobody ate chitlins.
Yes, sir.
Till he saw that the black man
Mm-hmm.
eating chitlins.
Mm-hmm.
Now he sell chitlins.
Right.
That was how low down the black man used to be.
Mm-hmm.
They call ham eating high on the hog, bacon and ham and sausage. How low on the totem pole of the hog is chitlins?
Right.
That's low.
Yeah.
But we was eating that.
That's right.
Now you got Muslims who don't eat hog at all. Don't even touch his carcass.
Yes, sir.
It's God. All praise be to Allah.
Yes, sir.
And ain't none of us never saw Master Farad Muhammad. None of us. But his teaching still worked for us like it did for brothers in the 30s.
That's right.
Still work for us.
That's right.
We still just as convicted about the messenger. And Master Farad Muhammad, his brothers was who saw him. And we ain't never saw him.
That's right.
But these teachings have done the same thing for us that it did for them.
That's right.
That's all praise due to Allah. How you know he God. The messenger talked about Master Farad Muhammad. He said even his words, you get a little bit of it. And you see how you change overnight.
Yes, sir.
It's a little bit of it. Because when we first come in the temple, we don't know nothing.
That's right.
Messenger talking about like you a fish out of water. We don't know nothing.
Right.
But that little bit you know. That white man, I'm telling you, that white man was devil was what it was for me. I thought I knew it. The white man's the devil. I told everybody I know. White man's the devil, brother. I ain't know nothing about no grafting. I ain't know nothing about no nature. But I knew he said the white man's the devil. And I like that. White man's the devil. And that changed me.
That's right.
Once he convinced me that the white man was the devil, it changed me.
Yes, sir.
It changed how I thought about them. It changed how I saw them. It changed my relationships with them. That's God.
Yes, sir.
Just telling me that the white man is the devil because you see him killing somebody. That ain't changing your opinion about them. That's not changing your relationship, because you can also look at a white man that do something good.
That's right.
You think he a good white man, but when you've been taught by God and you give these teachers to another black man, you can see a white man could save a black man's life. He a no good blue-eyed devil.
That's right.
Care what he do.
That's right.
You can marry him. You can have kids with him. He the devil.
That's right.
That's what we love as Muslims. We talking about the white man being the devil.
That's right.
We don't care about these hypocrites who kiss these devils all on the cheek.
Yes, sir.
Messenger. We'd rather get 50-year-old Muhammad Speaks newspapers and tell people about the messenger
That's right.
than we would want to tell you about a hypocrite. All praise due to Allah. That's real talk.
Right.
We would rather these old Muhammad Speaks newspapers, some of these papers 50 years old,
That's right.
rather stand up here and tell you this is what the messenger did.
That's right.
Even though people like, who is he? This is Elijah Muhammad. He died in 1975. He was the messenger of Allah, brother. You want to see something real, read about the messenger.
That's right.
Tell you about no hypocrite.
right.
God came in a person. Who is Master Farad Muhammad? He came in 1930. He left in 1934. He the longer way to save. He God. That's who we pray to.
That's
Tell
right.
nothing about these hypocrites.
Yes,
You can tell them Orthodox Muslim if you want to. That some spook came in the person. We still don't want to be with you. We're going to be with God in the person of Master Farad Muhammad and his message.
Yes, sir.
That's how it is.
Yes, sir.
All praise due to Allah. We ain't never seen Master Farad Muhammad. But we still just as fiery about him as the messenger was back in the day.
That's right.
Because the messenger said, this is one of my favorite articles from the message. This article is called Warning to Believers Against Mockers. When I read this article, I saved this article. This is my favorite. The messenger says, he quotes the Holy Quran 557. He says, there are some of you believers who may be weak, and there are some of you who are ignorant to the truth, that you cannot hold those for friends who may be your own relatives, who mock the truth and take the truth for mockery, a joke and a sport. They cannot be our friends, although they be near kin. When these hypocrites take the teachings of the messenger taught us for 44 years the white man's death.
That's right.
You kiss flagrant in front of the black man who deaf, dumb, and blind. What you doing to the teachings of the messenger? You making a mockery.
That's right.
The messenger said, warning to the believers against mockers. What does mockery mean? We got to go and see what mockery means, because the messenger broke Islam down for us.
That's right.
What does mockery mean? Mockery mean an absurd misrepresentation or imitation of something. Absurd. What does absurd mean? Absurd mean utterly or obviously senseless, illogical, or untrue, contrary to all reason or common sense, laughably foolish or false. Now the messenger taught us, and who is that mystery God? He taught us how the white man deceived us about the reality of God for 6,000 years. Then he taught us that God had to come to teach us the true knowledge of God. Yes, God had to come.
Yes, sir.
These devils were so skillful and they teaching to us that God had to come himself and undo all of them lies that the white man taught us.
That's right.
So then the messenger goes on to say, and is God a spirit or a man? He says the worst thing to ever happen to the devil is the truth of them made manifest, that they are really the devils whom the righteous, all members of the black nation should shun and never accept as truthful, righteous God, or should shun and never accept as truthful guides of God.
Yes, sir.
The white man. The messenger said the worst thing that ever happened to them was the truth that they the devil.
Right. Yes,
Because the worst thing also that happened to them is the true knowledge of God. When the messenger teaching us that God is not a spook, God is a man. That's the worst thing that ever happened to them, to know that a man is God and a man is the devil.
Yes, sir.
The worst thing that ever happened to him. The messenger says, never before this time did anyone come for the salvation of the so-called Negroes in America whose rights have been ignored by their enemies, the white race, for 400 years. Now it is incumbent upon Allah to defend the rights of his lost, found, helpless people called Negroes by their enemies. The messenger says the whole of the 3rd chapter of Habakkuk is devoted to the coming and the work of God against our enemies and our deliverance. We must not take our enemies for our spiritual guides lest we regret it. So in this one chapter, the messenger giving us example after example about why we should not take the white man for friends as a spiritual guide.
Yes, sir.
Then you got a brother who will get in front of black people, tell them you representing the message. Then you tell them that L. Ron Hubbard is something that you need to understand what God came. Now, no spook. He didn't come in a dream. He didn't come in a vision. He came himself.
That's right.
Raised a message.
Yes, sir.
The messenger said that Master Farad Muhammad studied for 42 years before he came and taught us what he taught. 42 years. Then he came in and out of America for 20 years.
Yes, sir.
Then it took him a year to find the message. Then it took him 3 years to teach the message.
Yes, sir.
And you mean to tell me you telling people that you represent the message and the devil is what we need to learn and understand what God came to teach the message? No.
Right.
That's why I love this article.
Yes, sir.
It says, warning to believers against mockers. If the messenger taught us that the white man's the devil, and you come and you kiss the devil, or you come and tell black people that it ain't, all of them ain't devil, you making a mockery.
That's right.
You making a mockery of the message. That's what you're doing.
That's right.
And the messenger said, warning against them. He says, there are some of you believers who may be weak, and there are some who are ignorant to the truth, that you cannot hold those for friends who may be your own relatives, who mock the truth and take the truth for mockery, a joke, and a sport. They cannot be our friends, although they are near of kin. Then he goes on to say, he says, he quotes the Holy Quran, chapter 5 and 54. He says, here is the promise to the messenger, that Allah will raise up for him better and more fearless followers,
Yes, sir.
who love Allah, God, and they love the teachings of Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad.
Yes, sir. Right.
He didn't say Allah. He said who will love the teaching from Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad.
That's right.
Everybody ain't going with these hypocrites.
That's right.
Everybody ain't going to co-sign what they say.
That's right.
Some people love the teachings of the messenger.
Yes, sir.
Some people love the fact to know that the white man is the devil.
That's right. Yes, sir.
All praise due to Allah.
That's right.
How you gonna look at what this white man done to us for 400 years and then go kiss him and say, hey, oh, he's my brother?
Yes,
You
sir.
making a mockery of the message.
That's right.
And we, in this new school stuff, we don't want to know nothing about no Islam. That's what it is. We love this new school stuff. We love when we can be friends with people who make mockery of the message. We love the fact that if they see me and I ain't got my headpiece on, I can just come into the temple and they ain't gonna say nothing. They like it if I got my beard and my girlfriend and they see me at the club And I posted on Facebook.
Yes,
Ain't none of these Muslims gonna say nothing to me. We love being in that. But the messenger said, warning to the believers against mockers. He said that Allah promised him better followers
That's right.
than these weak ones.
That's right.
Because you're going to have weak ones. But he said, Allah promised me. Here is the promise to the messenger, that Allah will raise up for him better and more fearless followers who love Allah, and they love the teachings of Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praises are due forever. They will strive hard in the way of Allah with his messenger, and they will not fear to do this for the sake of anyone. This is the time, brothers and sisters, that such people are rising up.
Yes, sir.
All praise due to Allah for the sake of anybody. Care who you is. You with the messenger, you ain't with.
That's right.
Care who you is. That's what he said, for the sake of anyone.
Yes, sir.
Anyone. I don't care who you is. You wear your headpiece, that sister.
That's right.
Kick rocks, sister, if you don't like wearing your headpiece. That's just how it is. That's what the messenger said that Allah promised him.
Yeah.
When you read these articles from the messenger, he don't talk about love for these weak Muslims. He don't talk about that. He talk about strong Muslims.
That's right.
When he was in the laborers meeting, and they was talking about Malcolm, what example he used? He used Prophet Muhammad. A 17-year-old boy who said, I'll cut their tongues out their mouth.
That's right.
That's what you ain't say about some person who gonna say, oh, well, Malcolm, you know. No. The example he used for all them captains and ministers who was sitting in there listening. Who will go for me? Said Prophet Muhammad had the same problem I had. A 17-year-old boy rose up.
Yes, sir.
And I cut their tongues out their mouth.
That's right.
Rip them from the root.
Right.
Burn their ashes and blow it to the wind.
Yes, sir.
The messenger said, and he ain't say it all excited. He said that those who need to hear it is sitting in this room.
Right.
This brother talking about me. Y'all know me. Y'all know what I done for you.
Right.
You know what Islam done for you. You gonna let this hypocrite sit up here and talk about me like that? Let me give you an example.
Yes, sir.
Show you what you need to be feeling like if you don't feel like it already.
Yes, sir.
Prophet Muhammad had the same problem.
Right.
But he had a 17-year-old. How old is some of y'all? Grown men with families.
Right.
This 17-year-old boy loved Prophet Muhammad so much.
Yes, sir.
Told him if they ain't gonna do it, I do it.
Right.
I cut their tongues out their mouth.
Yes, sir.
All praise due to Allah.
Right.
The messenger said that Allah promised him better followers
Yes, sir.
and believers who gonna love Allah and his teaching.
That's right.
That's what he said.
That's right.
He ain't say nothing about these weak Muslims
Yes, sir.
who sitting around letting people make a mockery of the messenger. Talking about you want to be brothers and friends to these people. No. You don't be friends to people who make mockery of the messenger.
That's right.
All praise is due to Allah.
Yes, sir.
So, the messenger, when he says that the whole of the 3rd chapter of Habakkuk is devoted to the coming and the work of God against our enemies and our deliverance. So he telling us that all of this stuff that's going on was prophesied. When God coming to do his work, it ain't just something that's just happening. He not only showed us that God is not a spook, but he showed us our place in prophecy. That God was going to come and was going to deliver us. God was going to come and going to deliver us. So he said we must not take our enemies for our spiritual guides, lest we regret it. He said, you are already deceived by them. Why seek to follow them and their evil doings? If I would say that God is not man, I would be a liar before him and stand to be condemned. Remember, you look forward to seeing God or the coming of the Son of Man, a man from a man, and not the coming of a spirit. Let that one among you who believes God is other than man prove it. So the messenger went on and on to teach us that God is not a spook. So he goes on in the coming of Allah. He says, anyone so blind to the reality of God is the servant of the devil until he sees God as a reality. He says, thousands of years the devil has been blinding man to God's reality. And that is the reason why God had to come in person, and he has to clear us of such ignorance and blindness to the knowledge of God. The white man, the same one we want to sympathize with, the same one we want to kiss on stage for thousands of years, not just for 100, thousands of years, he blind man to the reality of God. Now we got the truth, and we become so weak in love with the white man that we would rather sympathize with them than just tell them what the messenger said. Because every time the messenger showed the white man, he showed him as a snake. He showed that one Uncle Tom who was so weak that he would break black brotherhood just for his love for the white man.
Yes, sir.
This was the messenger. Every time he talked about the white man, he even had, when he talked about the serpent, he's showing you the tail of this serpent wrapping around the whole world. How much more plain can a man get to tell you that the white man's a devil?
Right.
He, all praise due to Allah.
Yes, sir.
He even got the part right here. This is showing Arabia, and it's showing because the part of the cartoon, the only part that don't have the white man's tail in it is in Arabia. Because he's showing that the brothers on camel ran the devil in Europe. So the tails start in Europe and they wrap around the whole earth. But the only place they don't have the tail at is in Arabia, where they ran the devils out. How much more he got to say to tell you that the white man's the devil? He done told us that the white man's the devil. And he goes on to say, he says, therefore we have the coming of Allah God. He is referred to as the Son of Man, because first he is the Son of Man and gotten for a special purpose, which is to return the lost back to their own and to punish and destroy the wicked for their destruction of the righteous, that the righteous may live in peace and do the will of the God of righteousness, free from trouble and interference.
Yes, sir.
The reason God came, to destroy the white man. We don't talk that kind of talk no more. That was his purpose for coming. The messenger said that the white race in America is #1 on God's list.
That's right.
On his list.
Right.
He didn't just say, I'm just going to come and destroy a few devils. He got a list. When you go to the store, you don't want to forget something. So what you do? You make a list.
Right.
So you won't forget, no, oh yeah, I got to get him. I got to get some eggs. I got to get this. He make a list. And he said that the white man of America is #1 on this list.
That's right.
Not only that, the messenger said that Allah hates the white race so much of America that all the devils who done left America to go live in other parts of the world, say he gonna gather them all up and bring them to America and burn them alive here.
Yes, sir.
All praise to Allah. That's what the messenger used to say about the devil.
Right.
When you read these Muhammad Speaks newspapers and the messenger talk about the devil, he go from the devil from A to Z.
Right.
He tells us about him being grafted. He tells us who his father is.
Right.
He tells us how long they gonna live. He tells us how they gonna die. Then he said that new earth and that new heaven is gonna be built right here in America. He even tells us how long America gonna burn.
Right.
What he said, 600 years and it's gonna cool off for 300? Somewhere around there. It's gonna be out for 1,000 years. And he said new vegetation and all that is gonna grow right here. Why wouldn't a black man be happy to believe that? What else you want to believe? You want to believe in a spook that Moses praying and talking to a burning bush that's going to save everybody? Or do you want to believe God love you? God called, praise due to Allah. God came to save you.
That's right.
That teaching should be easy to get over to black people.
That's right.
But it seemed like the messenger said, we don't want no parts of God if God ain't going to take the devil with us. If they can't go to heaven with us, we don't want to hear it.
Right, yeah.
But it should be a teaching, this teaching of the messenger, every black person should love.
That's right.
That's why when the messenger talk about warning for these mockers, a true believer of the messenger don't have a problem with shunning nobody who don't like the teaching of the messenger.
That's right.
Keep it real. They don't be feeling, oh, no, brother. Do you like it? They don't. Well, because if you don't like this, what else you gonna like?
Right.
The message said everything I teach you is in your favor.
That's right.
So if you reject Islam, you ain't gonna want nothing else. That's like a person is doing you a favor. You catching hell. You ain't got no job. I talk to my boss and say, look, I know a brother. He need a job. Can you do something for him? You get the job. Then you quit. How I'm gonna feel about you? I done talked to my boss for you. My boss looked out for me to look out for you, to give you a job that you didn't have. And you gonna quit it? I'll never help you again. Ever. I helped you. Same thing with Islam. God came 9,000 miles to raise up a messenger for us. He didn't have to do that. Could have stayed in Mecca, chilling. He didn't have to come raise us at all. Then, to show you how much God and the messenger love us. The messenger said, Allah said, let me and you go. Get the keys. Don't leave them though. Get them keys I taught you and me and you go.
Right.
That's to let us know how real it is.
Right.
Get them keys, them teachers that I taught you, and we'll go teach somebody else. Let's go. We can leave.
Right.
Messenger said, no, let me get him.
Yes, sir.
44 years he was here, and you know the hell he caught.
That's right.
To give us the truth.
That's right.
His children turned against him.
That's right.
He talked about how his sons knew who he was.
Yes, sir.
When you listen to Wallace, I listened to him in 1964 talking on the radio about the Messenger. This was the first time I heard about it a year ago. I couldn't believe.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I loved my daddy. My daddy had faults. I ain't telling everybody the faults of my daddy. I know he wasn't perfect.
Right.
Your daddy was the messenger.
Right.
All these people he helping you. Then wouldn't nobody even know you if it wasn't for the messenger.
That's right.
Then you get on the radio and talk about this man like he was talking about him. No, if you don't want Islam, you worthless. If you don't want Islam. If somebody give you Islam and you reject it from the messenger and you don't want it, you're a worthless black man and you fuel for the fire. The messenger wrote an article like that. He said, when I teach you and you don't accept it, he said, I'll push you in the middle of the fire. That's what he said. You worthless if you don't want it. That's how it is.
Right.
That's how it is. God came.
Right.
Came 9,000 miles. What else we gonna get?
Right.
We ain't gonna get no more help other than God coming himself. So if you don't want it, if you don't accept it, then you fuel for the fire.
That's right.
Ain't nobody feeling sorry for you. All this hard work is somebody who will accept it.
Yes, sir.
And them the ones who you working hard for. For those who don't want it, hey, it's up to you.
That's right.
Stay out here with the devil then. Ain't nobody feeling sorry because the messenger said Allah promised him them type of followers.
That's right.
Them the type of followers he want. Plus, on my closing, I read one time the messenger started talking about these weak Muslims who don't accept Islam. He said Allah would clear the debt and start all over fresh. That's how he wrote the article. This was back in the 70s, I believe. Talking about all y'all who sneaking and ain't following the teachings and think you getting away. He said Allah will clear the debt.
Right.
What did he do in 75?
Yes, sir.
He cleared the debt.
Right.
Straight up. Think of all them good believers who was good believers too.
Right.
It wasn't just everybody wasn't a hypocrite. Some people were sincerely following the message,
right.
giving all they could. But the message said Allah will clear the debt.
Yes, sir.
So we better take advantage of this opportunity that we had. We can be in that debt that he clearing.
That's right.
Good Muslim or not,
Right.
he can clear the debt. So you should look at this as an opportunity. Thank Allah.
Right.
All praise is due to Allah. Well, brothers, I wanted to prolong the time, so I'll leave you as I came in the nation of Islam's greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum.
Enjoying the show? Help keep us on the air. 313-371-7033. That's 313-371-7033 to make a donation.
Says we rise in prayer. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the beneficent, the merciful. Soul Master's day of judgment in which we now live. The alone do we serve, the alone seek for thine help and aid. O Allah, please guide us on the right path, path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed thy favors, not on the path of those upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray if they heard thy teachings. Say he, Allah is one God. Allah is he of whom nothing is independent, but upon whom we all depend. He begetteth not, nor is he begotten, there is none like him. And I bear witness that none deserve to be served worship to praise besides Allah, who came in the person of Master Farah Muhammad. And I bear witness that the honorable Elijah Muhammad is thy true servant and last apostle. Ameen. The honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us not to do anything to anyone that we wouldn't have done it to ourselves and treat everybody right, even the devil. Assalamu alaikum.